Manuel here with a quick take. Look, how do integrated circuits make us wealthier? Well, let's think about this question in this way. If your income isn't increasing, isn't growing, you live in, say, a third world country, on average, the per capita incomes are not growing as at a very fast pace. But in some ways, you are actually wealthier than you might have been 15, 20 years ago in some ways. Well, in what ways are you wealthier? Well, for one, the gadgets that you operate daily, say the cell phone you might be holding in your hand, for example, is a device with more computing power than the National Aerospace Agency or the American NASA had available to them as they computed the trajectory to allow them to land spacecraft on the moon. That is remarkable. And that is one way in which people have gotten wealthier, although their incomes have, or rather, they've gotten wealthier despite the fact that their incomes are not growing at a fast pace. So, in absolute terms, right, say incomes of the average Kenyan are at around $2,000 per capita per year, right? But the smartphone and other similar gadgets allow them to access functions that they just did not have at a price that is incredible, right? Picture NASA in 1960s. They are operating on a budget of $5 billion a year, right? In the 60s, on give or take, right? And the equivalent today is $50 billion, right? So what does that mean? They're operating a budget of $50 billion and they did not have the computing power that people earning incomes of $2,000 a year have access to today. That is one way that they are much wealthier. Thanks to what? Well, thanks to the integrated circuit. The integrated circuit is a component, or also known as a computer chip, right? Is a component of modern electronics that is the cornerstone, actually, of modern electronics. The value in the trade of integrated circuits actually surpassed that of crude oil and motor vehicles in the year 2020. What does that mean? Well, that means that this product that is mostly unseen, but which enables the livelihoods, the lifestyle that the modern man enjoys, and the modern man in the poorest countries in the world enjoys, right? This piece of technology has gotten more and more accessible over time. It packs an incredible density of value in a very small space. It involves a high intensity of knowledge, and yet it is available for cheap, right? For cheaper than NASA could access in the 1960s. So in that way, right, although policymakers or let's say the policy frameworks of nations in the poorer corners of the world have failed to lift many of them from abject poverty, or their average incomes are rising at such a slow pace, the nationals of the citizens of these nations have access to technology that has actually accelerated the pace of their getting wealthy in, you could say, nominal terms, right? Despite policy failures. So those of us who live in the poorer corners of the world have the convergence of science and technology and comparative advantage, that explosive convergence, to thank for the fact that, look, we're enjoying a bit better lifestyle than we might have, despite our failures in policy. This is why the integrated circuit is such an important good. Hey, it even constitutes a pivotal moment in the history of man. Yeah, it's just that significant.